Hello everyone. Today I'm looking at an audio recorder that is a neat piece of gear with a fun name, and I thought it would be interesting to talk about it. There aren't many videos out there about it, and frankly that's probably because it won't be relevant to most people. It's quite expensive, so unless you're making money with it and need the features it offers, you'd surely go with any number of alternatives. In other words, most people would never consider buying one of these, but it's still an interesting little recorder, so let's check it out. This is the Lectrosonics SPDR, which stands for Stereo Portable Digital Recorder. SPDR, spider. And they even put a little spider graphic on it. I'm now recording into the SPDR with a Lectrosonics lav mic. This is a belt pack style audio recorder, but it's a bit on the large and heavy side for recorders that you'd try to hide on someone, although it's not so big that you couldn't do that in some situations if you needed to. The standout feature is that it's not just a stereo recorder with a stereo input, it actually has two separate inputs. It can use the inputs as a stereo pair with linked gain and limiters, or it can record them as independent channels, each with their own gain, limiter, low-cut filter, etc. It can also be set up with safety tracks for a total of 4 recorded tracks. The low-frequency roll-off filters are also adjustable from 35 to 150 Hz. It also has a headphone jack with power output that rivals some high-end portable audio players. It doesn't say at what impedance level it can drive that amount of power, so it's hard to definitively compare, but even with my hardest to drive headphones, it has good volume with zero hiss. Another big feature is timecode support, along with a temperature-compensated crystal oscillator for keeping accurate time once synced. It also supports stereo digital input. So if you have a wireless system or other device that can output a digital signal, you can actually input a stereo lossless AES digital signal into this recorder. And that's one of those features that most people won't have a use for, but if you do, it's a nice feature. It records onto a micro SD card up to 32 gigabytes. It has a file recovery option, so you can recover a file that was in progress if it loses power or something while recording. And speaking of power, it can run for around 20 hours on 2 AA batteries, or it can be powered continuously by 6 to 17 volt DC via a DC input barrel jack. And it will automatically switch back to battery power if it's recording and DC input is lost. It doesn't have Bluetooth, but it does have an option to respond to specific audio tones in order to start and stop recording or lock and unlock the buttons. There's an app that simply plays sequences of various frequency tones, each one responding to a specific command. The recorder hears those tones through the microphone and responds to them. So it's technically wireless control, but you have to have the mobile device near the mic, so it's really just a way to control this and basically start and stop recording without having to pull it from wherever it's hidden on a person or wherever you have it stashed. So it's a useful feature, but it's obviously limited. As far as preamps, they're interesting. It has Lectrosonics servo bias preamps, and depending on how the connector is wired, it provides 0, 2, or 4 volts of plug-in power, and it can be set up for various levels of mic or line sensitivity. Remote Audio makes an XLR adapter cable that allows this little recorder to provide way more than enough gain for a Shure SM7B. I'm talking good levels at 34 out of 44 gain setting, and bouncing off the limiters with a normal speaking volume if you max the gain out at 44. It's crazy. In fact, here you go. I'm now recording with a Shure SM7B directly into the SPDR. Unfortunately, in this situation, I get a lot of odd digital interference noise and a rhythmic clicking. Strangely, it has more noise than the Lectrosonics MTCR I tested, which supposedly has literally the same preamps. Again, though, that's when driving the most notoriously insensitive dynamic microphone. When used with lav mics, even fairly insensitive ones like the M152 that I'm back to using now, it has a low noise floor, even at high gain settings. So it does have good preamps, but if they could fix the slight clicking noise and the digital noise it's picking up, it would be dang near magic with the gain levels that you can get from this thing. If nothing else, it's a shame that it doesn't at least match the MTCR, but it's still good, especially when used kind of with more expected microphones. Ultimately, the SPDR is a fairly specialized device. It's expensive, yet it lacks some features that most would probably see as a given in an expensive recorder these days. Stuff like 32-bit float recording or remote control via an app. But I get the vibe that the design focus was on being reliable first and foremost. You have to hold the power button for several seconds to turn it off. Once you start recording, you have to hold 2 buttons for about a second in order to stop recording. The keypad can be locked entirely, and like I said, it has a feature to recover the audio file if it suffers a power failure while recording. It won't even let you start recording without formatting the micro SD card first if another device has made changes to the card, just to avoid any potential issues. So it seems like reliability is the focus. And that's not to say it doesn't still have a good feature set. It has an accurate timecode clock, it has 2 inputs with optional safety track recording on both, built-in limiters, adjustable low-frequency roll-off, and it can accept digital or analog inputs, and it's called a SPDR. What more could you want? Well, okay, I guess you could want other things, not the least of which is good enough and reliable enough audio for a fraction of the cost. And I imagine that's where most people will fall. The Tascam DR10L Pro has 32-bit float recording and optional Bluetooth. The Tentacle Sync Track E has 32-bit float, Bluetooth, and timecode, and both of those are far less money. Seriously, you could get both of those for less money. And I've had no issues with my Tascam DR10L non-Pro. So any of those would likely make far more sense for just about everyone. But this is still a neat recorder, and I thought it would be fun to make a quick video about it. So hopefully that was helpful or at least interesting. If you have any questions, let me know. And as always, thanks for watching. Take care.